Hi everybody, I'm Kat, and welcome to Kat's Tiny Kitchen. As you can see today, I'm in another room of the house because there is a TV going in the living room, and I didn't really want that background noise while I was recording my intro for you all. As some of you know, Mike was diagnosed with cancer in the beginning of December. He does have a tumor on his right vocal cord, which caused his airway to collapse, and he ended up with a tracheostomy. He's not on a restricted diet in the sense of a tracheotomy patient where he can only eat soft foods that are pureed or blended. He can have solid foods like hamburger, ground pork, ground chicken. He can't sit down and eat a steak, of course, because that just isn't going to work for him. He wouldn't be able to swallow it properly. So a lot of my recipes that you're going to be seeing in the near future will be geared around how Mike can tolerate and eat them, how they need to be prepared for a tracheotomy patient. And don't get me wrong, I am not an expert on this at all. I've done a lot of research, but I am not an expert. I can only show you what I know that works for my husband. If you are watching this and you are also a tracheotomy patient, don't try these recipes unless you absolutely know for sure from your physician that you can use these recipes. A lot of tracheotomy patients can't tolerate the foods that I'm serving Mike right now. Some tracheotomy patients end up on feeding tubes because they can't take in the food like normal eating. Today, I'm doing a favorite of Mike's, and I hope he can eat this. It's shrimp pasta, and I'm sharing some of the things that I've done to make it easier for his diet and make it easier for him to eat and enjoy what he's eating. So I'm glad you came today. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to get cooking and let's see what we can come up with. Thank you all very much. Already got most of my prep work done, so what I need to do here is to get this shrimp. I have about 12 large shrimp here that I need to cut into tiny pieces for Mike's diet. So this is what I've got left to do, and this is what I'm going to do right now, and I'll show you the rest of the ingredients when we get to that point. And we're pretty much almost done here. You want to get the bites as tiny as possible, and so that they're manageable for the trach tube in his throat. And there you have it. There's 12 shrimp cut up very tiny. And now we're going to move on to the other ingredients and start getting this dish going. Right now I've got the water starting to boil. So I figured I'd go over the ingredients with you that's going to go into this dish to get it prepared for Mike. So we start out with 2 tablespoons of butter and 1 tablespoon of olive oil. That's going to go into the pan to get things going for Mike, and we'll just set that aside. And then once the water is boiling, I'm going to add my pasta. I've got 2 cups of Fidio pasta, and basically what that is the pasta is cut up in really tiny bite-sized pieces. You can see that it's very tiny. When I put this in the water, I'm going to boil it for about 5 minutes, and then I'm going to shut the burner off and leave the lid on it and let it sit for about 20 minutes. And I'll check the pasta at that point to see if it's cooked enough. You want the pasta to be very soft. You don't want al dente because Mike's diet can't handle the al dente. It's got to be very soft. So we will take care of that when the time comes. In the dish also I use some Italian seasoning, and I've already got this pre-prepped, and I have right here it's a tablespoon of dry Italian seasoning, and I went ahead and added about a quarter of a cup of hot water to this. I want to hydrate those herbs. I want them to be soft and easy for Michael to deal with when he's eating the dish. So that's been sitting a while. I did this ahead of time. I will probably only use about a tablespoon of this, and what I don't use I'll put in a container and put in the fridge for another recipe. So that's one ingredient. Then our next ingredient to the dish is garlic. I like to use fresh, but it takes longer for it to cook, so I've been buying the dried diced garlic to use in dishes so that I already know it's cooked, it's soft enough. It'll continue to cook in the recipe once I add it, and it'll be soft enough for him to chew and take care of in his mouth. The next thing in the recipe is diced tomatoes. The actual recipe calls for normal dice, but in this case, because we need tiny bites, I'm going to add petite diced tomatoes to the dish. And I've been using it in a couple of other things. I actually made him chili the other night that he liked, and these tomatoes worked out perfectly for his diet. And then last but not least, of course, the star of the show is going to be the shrimp for our shrimp pasta. I've got, as you saw at the beginning, I got it all cut up. They're tiny bites. This will probably be added to the dish last. I normally will put it in the butter and olive oil and garlic first, but because it needs to be soft and I don't want it to get rubbery, it will be added last and then cooked into the dish that way. Normally I would add cheese to this, but because of the trach, we don't know how that would react to his trach. So we're just going to go ahead and omit the cheese in the dish, but it still should be tasty without the cheese. So once the water is boiling and the pasta is done, we'll get ready to assemble this dish for you. I've got my pan hot here, so I'm going to add my 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to add my tablespoon of olive oil and get that melted. It's melting pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 tablespoons of garlic. Low that sizzle, low that smell. Let that go for about 30 seconds or so. just to release those good smells and flavors into the butter and oil. Now that I've got that in there, I'm going to go ahead and add my petite diced tomatoes. Get that stirred in. Next, I'm going to add my rehydrated, let's set this here. I'm going to add my rehydrated Italian seasoning. And then there are two ingredients I forgot to show you when I was showing you the ingredients. I have a teaspoon of garlic salt that I'm going to add, and a teaspoon of black ground pepper. Stir that all in. Get this good and hot. Make it a mess again. Oh well, it cleans. See if I can't get that to boil a little bit. Once this gets to boiling a little bit, our next ingredient to add will be the pasta. And then I'm going to turn the heat down and let it simmer for a few minutes because I want that pasta to absorb some of the flavors from the tomatoes and garlic and seasonings that I put in here. And we're getting a little bit of a bubble, so I'm going to go ahead and do the pasta now. I need my spatula. It's stuck. We're going to have leftovers, which is fine. Mike may not do any more, but I will definitely have something for my lunch. Get that all mixed in, broken apart. We'll let this simmer a little bit, and once it gets good and flavored, I will taste it to see if I need to add more salt and pepper. So now that that's going, stir it up. I'm going to turn my heat down. And put a lid on it, and I'll probably let it go for about 5 minutes maybe. It's been about 5 minutes, and I did taste it. It did need a little bit more garlic salt, so I added some more garlic salt to it. And now I'm going to add the shrimp. And this will take about 3 or 4 minutes to get the shrimp all cooked. Wouldn't miss any of it. I'm just going to start stirring. Get it in with that hot pasta. You know your shrimp is cooked if you have never cooked shrimp before. You know your shrimp is cooked when it starts to turn an orangey color, orangey white color. It's no longer kind of a clear or a, I want to say a transparency. I want to keep stirring it because I don't want it to sit in the bottom and overcook and then get rubbery and have Mike not be able to eat any of it. We're getting there. And there you go, folks. It is done. The shrimp is cooked. And I'm gonna plate it up. I'll show you a picture. And it's time for the dinner bell to ring. So you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you for joining, and I hope you have a blessed night.